Hello, it's Michelle De Leon with Two Peas in a Bucket with another Seeing Double video. Today I decided to focus on triangles. Here's the layout and card that I created, and a closer look at how I incorporated triangles into the layout. First, here are some of the products that I picked out. There's some of the new enamel dots from Freckled Fawn, and some of these stamps from Ali Edwards. I have the summer set and just some everyday words. Since this page is going to be pretty summery, I thought that these translucent Heidi Swap alphas would be a good pick, and I also picked out these Lawn Fawn alphas. I really like that coral color. Some of the triangle themed products that I picked out are the stamp set from Lawn Fawn. It has some arrows and triangles, and the stencil from Prima. I didn't actually pick out too many triangle products, but I wanted the main triangle theme to come from these stencils that I created with my silhouette, and I just wanted to use them as templates for pattern paper. Here's a quick look at some of the pattern paper that I picked out. Since I'll just be cutting little triangles with them, a 6x6 pad or just scraps of paper would be best. But I had a specific color set in mind, so I just went through my stash and picked out what I had. I wanted to have a mix of neutrals along with turquoise, yellow, and some coral. So another way to get some templates of triangles is to use your square punch and then to just cut along the diagonal, and that'll get you a triangle. And again, I just had a specific type of triangle that I wanted, so that's why I used my silhouette. I just wanted them to be a bit longer rather than short and wide. Here I'm going to use the triangle template to cut out another identical triangle. And I just wanted to use white cardstock because I wanted to do a bit of embossing and use some watercolor on it. And I'm just going to pick out one of these phrases from the Ali Edwards Summer stamp set. Because my triangles are pretty small, none of the phrases will actually fit exactly in them, but that was the look I was going for. I wanted the words to be going off of the shape. I ended up picking that stamp in the top left corner, and I'm just going to place it onto my acrylic block and ink it up with Versamark. And I'm using Versamark because I wanted to do some heat embossing after with this white Zing embossing powder. And I'm just trying to make sure that every letter and word is covered. I'm not a pro stamper at all, but as long as the image comes out, I'm happy. And that was good enough, so I'm just going to get out my embossing powder now and try to cover the stamped portion. It would have been helpful to have tweezers to shake off the excess, but I didn't have mine on hand, so I'm just trying to be careful when I try to shake it off. So just heating it up now, and I just tried to be careful not to get the triangle to blow around in different directions. Now that it's embossed, I'm going to take out some watercolors. I just had a random set here. I thought about using gelatos as well, but the colors that I had didn't really go with what I was going for. And I don't have much watercolor experience. I just thought it'd be fun to try, especially in a small amount, which is why I decided to try them with these smaller triangles all over my page. And since they are separate pieces and more like embellishments, I don't have to worry about making a mistake and ruining the whole page or anything like that. So what I was trying to go for here was an ombre effect. I started with that orange red at the top, and I just faded it down, and then I decided to have a bit of orange at the bottom just to have it fading into that color. I'm just adding the orange at the bottom and fading it upwards into that orange red. And you can see the white embossing showing up now that we have some color on the white cardstock. So I repeated that process for a couple other triangles, And I also wanted to start incorporating the pattern paper triangles now. So I'm just starting to cut into the paper and decide how I want to organize them. So I wasn't too worried about organizing them in a very structured way or with exact even spacing. I just wanted it to loosely go from the top to the bottom of the page. And now I'm starting to cut into more of the paper. So I have some turquoise and some more yellow and some of that coral color, and I'm just trying to add a few neutral pieces just to balance. Nothing is adhered down yet, but I think it's time to start working on other parts of the page. So I'm gonna mat down my photos onto this yellow paper by Echo Park, and just to have an idea of where I want that bigger block on my page. And I'm going to leave a bit of space around the photos when I cut it out, just for later embellishing. I'm just reorganizing the triangles and trying to figure out exactly where I want them now that I have my photos ready. I was trying to spread out the colors a bit so that there wasn't a cluster of the same color in one area. And I'm starting to leave a bit of space at the bottom right-hand corner. I think I might want to place my photo there. And I like how that fits there. I decided to mat the yellow onto this darker wood grain just to have it pop out a bit more because it was blending into the different colors and to that white background. This paper is from Ellie Studio and it's really nice summery wood grain. I decided to add another strip of that wood grain paper to the opposite side to balance with the heaviness of the photo on the right side. And I wanted to use the Heidi Swap letters for my title, so I'm just getting them out, and at this point I didn't really know what I wanted to title it. I know I wanted something about summer or sunshine, so I'm just getting some of the letters out to see if I like where it's placed. And I'm going to use some of these July printables, and I'm just going to use that top banner there that says, "Oh darling, let's be adventurers," and I'm going to place it at the top of my photo there. I also picked out this Amy Tangerine clothespin, so I'm just going to put it at the top there. And this is an October afternoon die cut card from the miscellany pack, and I'm just going to tuck it behind the photos. And one of the reasons I wanted to use the clothespin was to pop off that layer a bit so that there was some room to tuck in a hidden journaling card. So adding some more embellishments, I'm just grabbing my basic gray mint julep die cuts. It has some transparencies as well, and the one that I picked is a transparency. It says Our Story. And just going through my embellishments, I picked out some more die cuts, and these ones are from the Fifth and Frolic Dear Lizzie line, and I just have these two that I wanted to place up at the top, and then I wanted the two to be closer to the photo. So I'm just going to place it at the corner there. So just adding a few more bits and pieces, I have these vellum arrows from the Studio Calico Atlantic line that I'm just going to place underneath. And that's looking good for the placement of most of the elements, so I'm going to start finally adhering things down now. And I just used a little bit of glue on each of the triangles because I did want to go back with stitching afterwards down the center of the triangle. So I'm just trying to make sure that they're in place and not moving all around while I'm trying to sew everything down. I tried to leave a little extra space between the triangles because I wanted to go back afterwards with that Prima stencil and add a few extra small triangles. And here I'm just noticing that the right side is a little empty with triangles, so I'm adding a few extras just to make it seem like it went across the whole page rather than just having that big gap there with the photo. And here everything is adhered down, and I did decide on my title too. So now I'm going to go back with that Prima triangle stencil, and I'm going to cut out some triangles. So first, I just want to make sure that the stencil is not going to move while I'm using my craft knife. So I'm just going to take some washi tape and try to adhere it down and prevent any slipping or sliding when I'm trying to work with the knife. So I'm just trying to carefully outline that triangle and cut it out. I wasn't too sure about how it would turn out, so that's why I decided to stick with the smaller triangles. So now I'm just going to peel off my stencil carefully and just pop that little triangle out. And I was pleasantly surprised with how it turned out. I don't really use my craft knife too often, so it was nice that it worked. And I wanted to back those negative triangles with some washi tape, so I'm just getting out a few of my favorite colors that go with the color scheme here. So I'm just going to cut out each individual strip and then adhere it to the back of the layout. So I tried to be conscious of where I placed the colors. I just tried to place the coral in a place where there wasn't an overload of that color. And same with that green and the yellow and the blue. And here are a few finishing touches. I added some brads along with a new freckled fawn neon enamel dot at the top. And I finally did my journaling onto that tag, so I'm just going to take this lawn fawn trimmings in this lemon yellow color and just add it to the tag. And once that's added, I'm pretty much done with the page. And here are a few detail shots of the layout, and a closer look at the triangles with the stitching and the cutout, and the overall page. And now it's time to start on the card. So I used a few of the same materials and techniques that I used in the layout. I used the triangle template to cut out a few more triangles with white cardstock, and I decided to just use the same size. I'm going to cut off a piece of this wood grain paper from Ellie Studio and just have a strip behind the triangles. And I was pretty sure I wanted it there, so I'm just going to start adhering it down. And for the white cardstock triangles, I wanted to use the same technique with the stamps and watercolors. So I'm just laying them out on my scrap piece of paper again, and I have this arrow stamp, it's by Lawn Fawn, that I'm going to use across all of the triangles. I decided to do this because it was faster than picking individual stamps for each one, since it was a pretty long stamp. So I just inked it up with Versamark, and I'm going to stamp down. And now I'm going to get out the white embossing powder and just sprinkle it over the triangles. And again, it would have been easier if I had tweezers to shake off the excess. So I just tried to be careful and to not smudge off any of the powder. And here I'm just heating it up to emboss. And it was a little hard to see because it was white on white, but I'm just trying to make sure the arrows line up the way they were when I stamped. So now I'm going to use the watercolors again, and I'm going to start with red, and I wanted to fade it into an orange red, and into orange, and then into yellow. And again, I don't have much watercolor experience, but I made do, and I think it turned out okay. So on the right side, I'm just trying to blend that red into more of an orange red. And the next triangle will be an orange red and I'll try to fade it into an orange. And I realized after I probably should have went from lightest to darkest just so I wouldn't have to um, really um, clean my brush off really well each time. So this one will be orange, and I'll try to fade it into a yellow. And that last triangle will be yellow, and I just tried to fade it into kind of a white. I just left that end part there. And I would recommend letting the triangles dry before you start adhering things, or maybe using your heat gun just to speed it up. And I'm just arranging them so that they have that ombre effect. I really like how the arrow stamps just added extra detail to the triangles. And I picked out some stickers here from Amy Tangerine and Dear Lizzie for the rest of the card. So for the sentiment, I just picked this Amy Tangerine sticker, and it says, "You are simply wonderful." So I'm going to place it at the bottom corner there. And I'm going to use this fabric sticker of some birds and just place it off to the edge of the other sticker. I also wanted to use this Prima stencil again, so instead of cutting out like I did for the layout, I decided to fill it in. So I'm just going to use the watercolors again, and I think I just broke the cover over there. And I'm just trying to be careful not to put too much water on the brush, just because it'll start going underneath the stencil and it might not have the shape of the triangle anymore. And I'm just trying to make sure that the stencil isn't moving while I'm adding the watercolors. And I just tried to fill it in randomly in different places with a few of the different sizes. So now I'm going to try to carefully and gently remove the stencil. I just wanted to see how it turned out, and I liked how it looked, so I'm going to add a few more triangles here and there. So here's the finished card. I also added a few neon enamel dots to that sticker with the sentiment. And another shot of the finished card. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see your triangle projects in the gallery.